we are recording the session. So as soon as it's uploaded, I'll send out a link to everyone. So if you want to go back later at any point and watch the video, you can. Also feel free, if you have to come in and out of the session, that's perfectly fine. This is a pretty laid back meeting that we do. So no worries if you need to skip out a little bit early. We try to keep it to about an hour, but depending on questions, sometimes it does go over a little bit. There are a few just quick housekeeping things that I want to get to. I see some people say in the chat that you can't hear anything. Is sound okay for everybody? I can hear, okay. So hopefully that was fixed then. If you can't, there is a chat option. If you don't see it, just kind of move your mouse around at the bottom. You should see an option for a chat button. So just let us know if sound or anything messes up on your, and we'll try to troubleshoot with you. So a few housekeeping things. The first one, make sure you register for fall if you're a current student in the program. Registration information was out about a month ago. So if you need that to be recent, just let me know. Be sure that you register for liability insurance. That CRN was included in your registration information. That is required of students every August before you start clinicals. So then next August, you'll also register for it. That will just cover you in all of your clinical settings for the year. So it will be from this August to the end of July next year. This list insurance will cover you for it. It's $21, so it's not a huge cost to you. But that's why you're registering for it now, because even though you don't start clinicals until spring, the policy starts now. We do have a couple different groups of certificate or of students here with us today. So some of you are MSN students, most of you are MSN students who have matriculated through about halfway through the program. Then we also have certificate students. And out of the certificate students, we kind of have two different groups too. We have some students who are doing the prerequisites, which are the advanced pathopharm and assessment with us, who are currently enrolled in doing those. And then we have some who don't need to start until this spring. So some of you may not be in classes right now, and the spring will be your first semester here. So if anything that I doesn't apply to you based on curriculum plan, sorry for the confusion. We will be sending each of you a clinical ID badge probably at the beginning of January. So be sure where you were first admitted, you submitted a photo for us to use for this. And since it's been a while for some of you, if you want to update that, you're more than welcome to. Try to have that done probably by the middle to end of October. I will send out confirmation emails to each of you just to confirm the mailing address that we have on file is correct, because those will be sent to whatever email address we have on file for you. So also be on the lookout for that. That won't be later until the fall semester, but that will be coming your way. The badge, they add, I think it's $17.50, I believe, to your account for that, for printing and shipping it out. And then you'll wear that in each of your clinical rotations. I am also going to do some work on the student portal. I hope that you guys have been able to use that as a resource, but I do think that there's a lot of information and it's pretty cumbersome, in my opinion, to navigate. So next week I'm going to shut down for a couple of days for maintenance to hopefully help it match better with what your class looks like, and then to take out some of the stuff that I don't feel like is as important. So I'll send out an announcement to everybody to let you know when it's going down and then when it comes up. But go ahead, if you think you're going to need anything from there in the next week or so, go ahead and pull those documents off. But you're also more than welcome to email me if you've been there and you need the clinical request form and you can't access it. Just email me and I can send it to you. Okay. Does anybody have questions about any of that before we get into the...
Have we paid for that ID? Is that part of the tuition, or is that separate?
It is separate, but it will be billed to your account like tuition is. So I would assume if you're taking financial aid that $17.50 would be able to be used for that.
Is it built in until this fall semester if I'm starting clinicals in January?
The printing department is who adds that charge, and they won't add it until after they have mailed your badge. So you probably won't see that until the beginning of next year.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions about housekeeping things before we started? Okay, all right. So in the spring semester, it is your first clinical rotation. You will be doing 100 clinical hours over the 16-week semester. It will begin January 13th, so technically that's the first day that you can be in clinic if your contract is set and you're good to go. But this first rotation will be 100 hours. Your first clinical contract, your request form is due October 1st to Ms. Isaacs. So that form is on Blackboard. You'll fill it out with the preceptor and site information and submit it to her, and then she will work with the site directly to get a content in place if we don't already have one. You're not released to go to clinicals until you hear from her that you're good to go. Christy, I'm going to turn it over to you if that's okay, so you can kind of walk through that process and what you need and all that jazz.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, as she said, I am the placement coordinator, so the request form, what I need from you is I need a verbal commitment from a preceptor at a facility. Once you get that verbal commitment, you will submit the 2-page form, fill it out, and submit it to me. That is where you are, your part of it is until I get the contract in place and everything is approved. As Lindsay said, the deadline for spring semester will always be October 1st, so that will be for this spring and next spring. It will be October 1st. The deadline for summer submission is February 1st, and the deadline for fall submission is May 1st. You will have 4 different rotations, and I will go year-round. The first rotation is 100 hours over 16 weeks. The second one is 100 hours over 8 weeks. That is the semester that I stress you really need to be ready to go on the first day of classes because you only have 8 weeks. The third semester, you will do 150 hours over 16 weeks. And then in your final rotation, you will do 360 hours over 16 weeks. And in that final rotation, you do have the option to use 2 different sites and 2 different preceptors. In the other rotations, we do not like for you to have more than 1 preceptor if at all possible. In the first rotation, we would like for you to go ahead and obtain your therapy hours if possible. If you can't, you can't, but that would be the semester if we had our druthers that you would do the therapy hours in, and you need 30 to 40 therapy hours. You can do a preceptor of a psychiatrist for therapy. You can use a psych nurse practitioner for therapy. You can use a clinical psychologist. You can use a licensed clinical social worker. You can use a licensed therapist or a licensed clinical counselor as a preceptor for your therapy hours. For your actual clinical hours, you can use a psychiatrist, or you can use a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner that has had a minimum of 1 year practice experience. That is not an EKU rule, that is an ANCC rule we must abide by. They have to have a minimum of 1 year practice experience. Or you can use a psych CNS, and that will count towards your NP hours. Out of the 4 total rotations, that comes to a grand total of 710 hours. Out of those 710 hours, you must have a minimum of 50 of those hours with a nurse practitioner. The rest of them can be with a psychiatrist. We do not have a set order that we want you to get the specialty hours, but you just need to keep it in your peripheral there that you need to get them. You need to get anywhere from 100 to 150 in child and adolescent population. That's under the age of 18. And then you need to get anywhere from 50 to 60 in the geriatric population. And then, of course, the 30 to 40 in therapy. The rest of them can be in any population that you have availability to get it in. And the request form will be required for every site and every separate preceptor every semester. I have to keep the paper trail. I have to have email addresses that work for your preceptors, because all communications with your preceptors, including their forms to get credit for being a preceptor, will be sent via email. I can't think of anything else to add. Can anybody else think of anything I have left out?
Christy, can you hear me?
Yes.
For part of what you said about a minimum number of hours with an NP and a psych, it cut out or something happened. What is
Okay. Out of all 4 total rotations, it will come to the grand total of 710 clinical hours. A minimum of 356 of those must be with a psych nurse practitioner or a psych CNS. You cannot use an FNP. I know that there are FNPs that work in psych, but we do not allow that. As far as ANCC is concerned, they're practicing outside of their scope of expertise.
I will add, they have to be board certified psych MPs.
Yes, they
There are
do.
there are some states that don't require board certification. I think we're down to 1, maybe 2. There's anyway. And Christy just mentioned, make sure even for your therapist that a request form has to come in for the therapist along with psych MPs and psychiatrists. She credentials everyone.
The psych nurse practitioner needs to be board certified as well, or the CNS, I'm sorry, the CNS, and practicing as a nurse practitioner. Okay.
Yes, you cannot use a psychiatrist for all the hours. No, you're learning your new role as a psych MP, so you need psych MP hours.
For the therapy, would I be able to do it at a facility that I work at if I'm not clocked in?
Yeah,
Not if it's on your unit.
it's therapy hours.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I mean, we still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have a nursing section, and then we have the separate
Counseling
building
section.
for counseling.
Then you can do
Yes.
the other section. Yes.
Yes, it needs to be, and the reason why we have that rule is because it's really easy if you are in a facility where you're also employed for that line of student and employee to get blurred. And whenever you're in the student role, we want you strictly in the student role. So as long as it's not under it's not in the direct department where you work and under your immediate supervisor, that is permitted. Now, as far as like the rotation, you are allowed 1 repeat throughout the 4 rotations. An EKU definition of a repeat is to repeat a site, repeat a preceptor, or both. Now, when I say repeat a site, there is needs a little bit more explaining there, because we do recognize that there are facilities that have multiple locations that own, clinics all over the state or county or what have you. Those in those circumstances would not be considered repeats because they're seeing different patients and they have different providers. But you need to differentiate that on your request form, because otherwise I have no way of knowing that. And also the same would go for like hospitals that have like inpatient versus outpatient. Those would be considered not repeats because we do want you to get both inpatient and outpatient.
so we're to get a
Rachel, just cut out. You said something, but you're muted. You just cut out.
She said if possible. If you
Yeah,
get inpatient and outpatient, that's because they're 2 different worlds, and if you can get both, that's the best of both worlds.
We want you to have, the key is we want you to have as much variety as possible.
Okay, we have a lot of questions going in the chat.
Okay.
I'm afraid
Let's answer some of them.
we're going to lose them. So I didn't want to interrupt.
Well, you'll have to read them to me because my screen's not showing them to me.
And I can read them too. And it's the matter of, one thing that I think needs clarification, when we say you need 30 to 40 therapy hours, that's not in addition to the 100 hours like this semester. It would mean 30 to 40, and the other 60 to 70 this coming spring would be with a psychiatrist or a psych MP for a total of 100.
Right, they're incorporated in, not in addition to.
Right. And your GERO hours and your child and adolescent hours, that's part of those 710. It's not in addition to your 710. That's how we make up the 710 hours.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things is there's really no order that we expect you to have those population hours, but if child is difficult for you to find, child providers, which oftentimes it is, we would encourage you to look for those before the last semester, because we've got a lot of students that start to panic because, oh my gosh, I have no child hours, and they're in a tailspin. So go ahead and start looking at child providers in the area, we're here to help you. So usually what we ask, there's an MPI website that we give you, because you know your area better than us. We are more than happy to help in any way we can. You are not alone in finding your preceptor, but some of the preceptors that we might be 6-7 hours from you. So you know your area better. So we would encourage you to kind of look at your networks, see who's around, as well as get those child in a little, and sometimes gero population is hard to find. So kind of look for those.
Yeah, nursing home.
Yeah.
The remaining of the 356 of your 710 is with a psych MP or a psych CNS. The remaining 354, you got your 30 to 40 with a therapist, and the remaining can be with a psychiatrist. And we will keep a running total of those. Ms. Isaacs does that. I will, throughout your career in your education, I will be sending you periodic emails to tell you where you are in all of these populations. So you will get that every step of the way several times during the semester. When you get towards the end or when you finish your hours, we always do a celebration dance. It's always fun. And then you can do it with a psychiatrist. You can do all your hours with a psych MP. You don't have to go with a psychiatrist, but just remember, because there are psych MPs that do across the lifespan, that will see gero and will see adult and also child and adolescents. That's fine as long as you're fulfilling those special pop. That is fine. Child and adolescence is there's more and more of us, but a lot of times it's a psychiatrist.
Hours are not banked. They don't.
Yeah, bank hours. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
Can I
they
ask you a
don't.
question about populations?
Yes.
Sure.
So there's a facility, a geropsych facility that I could do my one of my rotations at, but that's going to be more than 60 hours. So anything more than 60 hours would account toward just my general population?
Yes, it would.
Yes.
Okay.
As long as you get the required specialty hours, we don't care where you get the other hours at. What
Make
population?
sure we have at least the kids and the gero, and then
The therapy.
we could have
Therapy.
less, like just, I don't know, middle-aged, I guess.
Yeah, the rest of them could be adult. Yes.
18 to 54.
Okay. All right. So
And
we can go over, and that would count for just our general age population.
As long as, like, if you get, and I'll be honest, when I'm calculating hours, a lot of you will get 102, maybe 101. That 1 hour or 2 hours does not roll into the next semester. It just means it's hard to get exactly 100 hours. I've had a couple do it, or exactly 150 hours. So you're going to have a little more than the required in most cases, but they don't roll into the next semester.
Okay.
You can use telepsych. We do permit telepsych, but you have to be in the room with the preceptor. You can't be in the room with the client in a different site. You have to be with the preceptor, so you have that one-on-one to discuss what you're there for, to learn from them. So you have to be, and not on a TV, you have to be in the room. That's how we allow telepsych.
The way that you keep track is we actually have a system where you will go in and record your notes and stuff, and it's called Typhon, and it automatically, there's actually a place where that you put the ages of the patients, and it starts tabulating it automatically.
Yeah, somebody asked in the questions about Typhon, and that is where you will kind of go in and document your notes. There is a certain note requirement, and we'll get more into that as you all come on board next semester or in the spring. Yeah, I'm already in fall. My mind's in fall already. So, and it tracks the hours like Christy Isaac said.
And the pediatric hours are incorporated in. So It's not in addition to. 710 is all you have to get, period. You're done. Say you were to secure somebody for child and adolescent for fall. That would be all you would need. You wouldn't need to secure anything else. You could do entire 150 hours in child and adolescent, and you would be done with child and adolescent.
Right. So some of our students realize that that's the population they feel they want to work with, so they might get more hours. I have one that's getting close right now to almost having 400 hours with child, because he has decided that's the population he wants to work with. So he's kind of spending more time with that population. So we suggest that if you feel that you want to be with child and adolescents, the more hours you can have to be a part of that, the better it would be.
If you go with a psych NP and they work across for adult and child, then how do you differentiate the hours of what for adolescents, since you are required between 100 and 150?
It tabulates it. When you put your notes into the demographic information into Typhon, it captures everybody 18 and below.
You'll put their ages into the note.
Into the note.
And tabulates it for you.
Oh, okay, so it just does a calculation of the hours it would be. Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
The start date for clinical, you can actually start on the first day of class, which is January 13th. There is a requirement that you must let your facilitator know that you're starting. And the class will open on that Sunday, the 12th. And so you'll know who your facilitator is at that point, and you would email them and say, I'm starting clinical tomorrow, Monday the 13th.
You can do more geriatric hours before the 710. If you want to work in the gero population, then just like the children's, you can get more hours in that population.
Have that happen too.
The numbers of that population is the minimum requirement. It's not the maximum requirement. So if you like the gero psych, then get more hours in that.
One of our professors who you'll meet, Professor France, Wanda France, that's the clientele she works with. So she works with the geriatric population. So
who grades our clinicals? I'm kind of curious as to like what we know we have to do in clinicals. I guess I don't really know, and I don't know how exactly our preceptor will know exactly what we should be doing either.
The preceptor handbook that's in the portal kind of gives each preceptor, each clinical, kind of an idea. There's a little tidbit for the first rotation, the second, they call them practicums, of what's kind of what we're working on. The first one oftentimes is observational as everybody kind of gets their feet wet, and you continue to gain more and more independence every semester as we go along. Your preceptor's not grading anything. In 800, in Nursing 800, which is your clinical course, which is led by Dr. and myself, you will have a facilitator. Our facilitators have clear guidelines on how to grade. You will know what we're looking for. You all sample charting on how to make sure, and we give you a lot of feedback so that your documentation is ready to go.
Awesome. Because I've heard, horror stories about how, you get a bad preceptor or something like that, and they just don't get along. So it's not them that do the final pass exam.
No. And we do encourage you to, with us, with your facilitators at EKU, if you're having an issue.
Yeah.
We don't want you to spend, even if it's been approved, we don't want you to be miserable and not learning. Okay. So if your button heads, and that happens very infrequently, but it has happened a handful of times. Okay. So just let us know. Even though we're online, we want you guys to feel a part of EKU, not just a number, and we get to know you. We have lots of these synchronous meetings throughout the semesters. So we can't help if we don't know. Mm-hmm. So don't be miserable. You are not alone. You're not just out there. EKU, you are not a number. You are a student and you're a part of us.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There was a question on the therapy hours. We prefer not to go too much farther over the 30 to 40 hours just because we want you to learn the role. And a lot of times our role is, their therapy is involved, don't get me wrong, but it's more of learning the role of prescribing medication, interacting with clients and their families, and learning that role more than the therapist role. So we want to have you have engagement in that and knowledge, but the more hours need to come with the psych NPs and the psychiatrists. We do, now preceptors incentives, we do give them access to our library. There was a question about incentives for preceptors, which a lot of them like. And then we also, for psych NPs, part of our requirement to recertify to every 5 years, one of the sections is precepting. So that, that helps them with recertification, and we send those verifications out at the end of each semester. So that is an incentive for psych NPs. And also on the psychiatrist ends, a lot of psychiatrists that do precept enjoy teaching. I hear that a lot. I make a call every semester, and so does Dr. Hovermill, depending on which one of us is teaching, to touch base with each of your preceptors during the semester. And I have a lot of psychiatrists who love to teach and love to, they'll fill your mind with all their knowledge. And same with psych NPs. They're doing this a lot of times because they enjoy doing it.
Well, the other thing that we've started at, we haven't done it for the docs yet, but your psych NPs, we're required to have X amount of pharmacology hours. EKU is just, this is the first time we've been got it approved for off-site, but we are offering a pharmacology update, and that's free for our preceptors. So that's 6 CEUs that they don't have to pay for, that fills most of the requirements across most states for that pharmacology review. So that's another kind of carrot that you can kind of dangle with your preceptor.
Going back, I think I got to go back to Becky. Becky asked if we can do 30 hours in a week. You cannot finish clinical any quicker than 12 out of the 16 weeks. We don't want you all to get done real fast, because you're learning in your didactic class. The first one, 880, is really centering around the whole DSM.
Diagnosing.
And you'll know that one real well. And then the second half is psychopharm. So we do not want, 12 weeks is the earliest you can finish in the spring, and then the summer is only 8 weeks, so 6 weeks is the only as quick as you can get done in the summer. So there is a requirement. So 30 hours in 1 week, it would get done too quick.
A psychologist can only be used for therapy.
Therapy, right.
No, we don't allow PAs.
Right.
And that's a requirement from the accreditations, not just EKU. The roles are very different for a PA versus a nurse practitioner in all the states. So we want you trained by someone that's going to be doing similar work to what you're going to be doing.
And then Adrian, yes, we've had clients go see ECT. Absolutely. It's not offered everywhere. But yes, it's, you kind of have to follow a patient. You just can't, it's documented as that certain patient. But yes, absolutely. You have the opportunity to see ECT. That'd be fantastic. So Becky,
you can't count 8 hours though.
Right. You wouldn't see 8 hours of ECT. That's unusual. It's usually a couple of seeing the clients. How many hours a week? This first semester, because of 100, usually works out to once a week if you start right away. Of course, if there's any delay with the contract, you'll hear us say the word contract and affiliation agreement. They're used synonymously.
They mean the same thing.
I said it right. I said that's a tough word for me, and I got it. And I had to think about it. And so it's the same thing, but just know that. But sometimes that's why we have the October 1st deadline and all the deadlines, is because if we're negotiating a contract, the larger organizations like hospitals, VA systems, because they're such a large organization, they get a little caught up in verbiage and contracts, and so they may delay it. They have quite a bit of onboarding requirements, which can be timely as well. So that's why we have those deadlines to submit. So for just therapy hours only, LCSWs can also be used for therapy, LP, and there are some psych MPs that do therapy, and sometimes psychiatrists. I had one this semester that did therapy, a lot of it. It's rare, but more psychologists, LPCCs, and LCSWs are the.
So I have a question.
Well, hang on, Sherry, and I'm done with the chat line if I answer this question, Sherry. Hang on. Yes, you can go to groups. Group psychotherapy is allowed as well. You can go to individual therapy or you can go to groups. And it's documented a little differently in Typhon, but you can go to group therapy. And led by a licensed person.
And it counts into those 30 to 40 hours.
Right. Okay, Sherry.
Okay, so we get our verbal commitment, and then we will download a 2-page form from the portal, give that to the preceptor who's verbally agreed to us. No.
You fill it out.
We fill it out. Okay. Yep. And then we submit it to Christy, and Christy will get in touch with them. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then if we have, for one of the rotations, I work at a facility that has both inpatient and outpatient. And so the NPs and the psychiatrists there do both inpatient and outpatient. So as long as the population group is for the first rotation, say pediatrics, then that can be in inpatient and outpatient.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But if in that first rotation I get 110 hours, then what you're saying is 10 hours do not carry forward.
Wow. Correct.
Okay, but in the end, it will tabulate as I have met my population group hours.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, which clinical rotation is scheduled for spring? I don't understand the question. Which clinical rotation is? It's 100 hours, and you can go to any population. It's more observational. Yeah. Any population. Therapy is, because we're talking about psychotherapies in the didactic course, that's sort of what it ties it in nicely. But you can do your therapy and group hours at any point during the program. It doesn't have to be. But it's just, and it's more observational, just to get yourself ready and prepared. If you feel comfortable jumping in, you'll hear me say that, jump in. Ask questions. So that's not a bad thing either.
You'll once you get your preceptor secured and everything's, there will be a form that you'll do your goal for that semester that you'll talk with the preceptor about, and what you'll go on to meet that goal. So remember, you guys are novice. Even though most of you have been nurses for a while, you are a novice nurse practitioner student. So we don't have expectations that you're going to know as much as me, who's been doing it for 20 years. We are here to teach you, but set a reasonable goal for yourself, what you want to do. And that's what you go over with your preceptor. So if I want to get more comfortable asking questions, or I want to get more comfortable learning
about
schizophrenia. So set that goal, diagnosing schizophrenia. So you'll set a goal for yourself that you and your preceptor will work on together and build on for that semester.
And yeah, Missy had that question, can you have 2 preceptors if you decide to do therapy this coming spring? You of course have 2 preceptors, the therapist and the psych MP or psychiatrist. So we always approve an additional preceptor for there. Good question, Jennifer. Jennifer, by any chance, do you know somebody already in our program? Okay, I just thought that was a really good question. Yes, you do get time we call it consult time with your preceptor. So, you might your preceptor might talk about the client for a few minutes before they bring them in. You all meet with the patient, discuss the patient, and decide what to do. The patient leaves, and you talk for a few more minutes about that patient after they leave. You can count that, huh? So normally the consult time is between 10 and 15 minutes, and that will decrease every semester. A lot of times by that final semester, the consult time is usually 5 minutes or below because you're more comfortable. You don't have as many questions by that last semester because you're feeling definitely more confident. I know that sounds really crazy right now, but we wouldn't lie to you. So yes, and the TYPHN counts both the consult time because you enter it. You enter your direct patient time, which is when the patient is in the room. You cannot count when you're at lunch. You cannot count when they're on a phone call.
Documentation.
And you can't count when they're documenting. It has to be direct patient time when that patient is in there, and then that small amount of consult time that you're discussing each patient. Same with therapy. Same with the therapist or group therapist. The board certified psych MPs is, yeah, they have to be board certified. We know of one state that doesn't require their psych MPs to be board certified. I know of one. I don't remember a second one. And a lot of times they go ahead and get board certified. Okay, maybe two. And so, but we even encourage those students to go ahead and get board certified just in case you move to a different state. For our requirements of accreditation board, that psych MP has to be board certified, which is, taking the great test at the end when you're all graduated and you take, just like NCLEX.
But that's a national certification. That's what I was under the impression.
Yes.
So for our state boards, we just have to be an RN, right?
Right.
Okay. That's where I was confused. Thank you.
Gotcha. Adrian, your old TYPHN account will not interfere. And usually in the first semester, if you'll go 1 day a week, you'll meet that 100 hours by the time. Like I said, you'll be getting periodic emails from me saying where you are. So you'll kind of gauge and you'll kind of, and I'll show you how to look at your hours so it's never a secret. I mean, TYPHN is open to everybody, but I tally everything for you too. But usually 1 day a week can get it done if you start right away and go 1 day a week. Now, okay, that does not include community mental health, which is where the majority of us have worked, can have no shows. And that hurts a student trying to get hours. Now, if it's inpatient, they're a captive audience. If it's the Department of Corrections, captive audience. So you usually get your hours there, but so you might have to go a little bit more if they have a no-show problem at the clinic, just to make up those hours.
The facility contact for the request form will be somebody that is authorized within that organization to sign contracts. It's usually somebody in HR, or if it's private practice, it'll be the owner.
So if say I get Professor Jones to be my preceptor, but Christy is the liaison for that agency. When you send that form in to Christy, you'll put Professor Jones's name and then the little note who the liaison is.
It asks that.
Okay.
Who the contact person is at the organization. There is a fee for TYPHN. I can't remember. One-time fee for TYPHN. And you'll be getting an email from Angie Wheeler to register for TYPHN. So you'll be on the lookout for that.
Sometimes that will go into your junk email. So we'll send out a letter or a note when she starts sending those out. So, and why it goes into our junk email, even with EKU, I don't know. So we might tell you to look at your junk email.
And Missy, North Carolina is not the state that doesn't require you to be board certified. They require you to be board certified.
They do. Deborah, if you have someone that, if something's going on with your preceptor, immediately get a hold of us and say, hey, our preceptor's going on maternity leave, or she had a death in the family, because we've had that before, and we will work with you to get those hours up. Okay, we'll figure something out. But let us know immediately if something's coming on with your preceptor.
Now, is that Alan? Help me. Is that Alan, or am I pronouncing that wrong? And I can say that because I mispronounced mine, and I have a tough one. Where are they?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Okay. If I'm understanding the question right, I was reading up here and looking at the pictures.
I know you are.
It says, so starting January 13th, I can get 100 therapy/observational hours. The therapy only can be 30 to 40.
That's max. 30 is minimum, max is 40.
Right. The rest of the hours is kind of more still observational with either a psych MP or a psychiatrist. You can do it in any population. You can go in some you can get some of your child requirement out of the way if that's who you want to be with. They might see across the lifespan. Or you can go with all adults. It's really and who you want to go. And we just mentioned that child hours are sometimes harder to find providers. That seems to always be the trickier one. So we suggest you start kind of looking in your area for options. If a preceptor goes to a nursing home, yes, nursing homes are great. Yes, I have several preceptors that work in the nursing home. And so that would get your GERO hours. Absolutely.
Now, let me
I was just
wait on that. Okay, if you have a preceptor that is employed by one facility that goes over into other facilities, that I would need to make sure how that works to determine. You cannot be in any facility that we do not have a contract on file for. That is because of insurance coverage purposes. So we have to have a contract on file before you can go into them. You'll have to submit a request form. I'll have to determine, there's some factors there. If the preceptor is going into, say, a nursing home as an employee of the site where we already have the contract, then you would be okay. But I need to figure that out myself. I have to verify that. You can't make that assumption on your own. Now, if the preceptor is employed separately by that nursing home, then we would definitely have to have a contract for the nursing home as well.
I'm going, Jacqueline, where'd you go? I saw you. Yeah, you are. We'll find out for you, but I think you're okay, but we'll find out. And I'll email you, okay? And then I'm going to try names today. Yelena? Did I do that right?
She's on the next page.
No, there's only one page.
Let's go with Deb first. What happens if a preceptor for some reason cannot finish a clinical rotation? Can we cut these hours next semester? No, you can't. You'll have to find another preceptor to finish out that semester with if that happens. Professor Jones said earlier, we encourage you to try to find your sites on your own. We realize that sometimes plans fall through, things like that. If that happens, reach out to me. Reach out to Professor Jones. Let us know what's going on, and we will assist you if we need to. The only thing is, if we do find you a site, you come to us and say, I can't find a site. I need you to find me one. It doesn't matter if it's 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours away from you. If I find you a site, you are committed. You can't come back after that and say, oh, well, I found something closer to home. No, you are committed when I say that.
The reason that is because oftentimes, if we get a preceptor to commit and then you say, well, I don't need them anymore, it kind of sits a poor taste in that preceptor's mouth. And you might need them the next time. So if we find you a site and then someone on the back burner comes back and says, hey, I'll do it, ask the person on the back burner to do the next semester.
Exactly. And when you're emailing sites and you're calling around, I always tell students to, if they say, if you call and you're asking for spring and they say, no, I've already got a student for spring, I always follow that up with, well, how about summer or fall or maybe next spring, And always do that.
And like Dr. Hovermill said, that we give you on the portal has it, the MPI site. And Yelena, this is sort of to your question, the MPI site, you can look at your individual state and look at who's in your area. A lot of times even private practice is easier to negotiate contracts with because a lot of times they use our contractor affiliation agreement. So that can be kind of negotiated a little quicker than the big organizations. But reach out to, if you'll reach out to a couple people that you have found, but if you run into trouble, that is what Miss Isaacs and myself are here for. We are here to, and Dr. Hovermill, but we are here to help. We're all here. Lindsay, we're all here to help. And so we have many contracts already in place in many states. And so we can utilize those. And we utilize our grads because they know where you've been. They've been in exactly the same spot you are. So they know that. And so we love when our grads can help as well. So, but see what you can find in your area. But if you have any trouble, just let us know and we're here to help.
And yes, we do. If we are helping, we do try to find in your estate. But some states are big, with Texas.
Pennsylvania's my tougher one. Sorry, Pennsylvania. It's like the states forever.
So we do try to find it in your state, but like I said, you guys know the areas much more than us. So it could be 6-7 hours away, and we don't want you to happen to drive that far. But if sometimes if you can't find anything, we've had to do it before. We had one student in Hawaii that flew over to the Big Island from the island that she was on. And we'll negotiate and we'll work with you all if that's the circumstance. But we do try to find it in your state if you can't find one. The other thing that I would recommend is when you're looking for preceptors, when I was precepting full-time, I thought the phone calls are good, but I liked better if someone said, I'm a student at Eastern State Kentucky University. I'm looking for a preceptor. Is there a time that I can come in and meet you? And that way you take your Vita, you dress professionally, you go in. Do you have any in Iowa? You go in and you have that face. It was a little harder for me to say no when I'm looking in the eye of the student versus the social, the texting.
An email or a phone call.
Yeah. That doesn't mean harass them. It just means say, hey, my name's Rachel Hovermill. I'm an Eastern Kentucky student, PMHNP student. I'm going to be doing my first rotation. Can I come in and talk with you about my expectations or what EKU is about?
And some preceptors require that. They want to make sure that it's a good fit because like we talked about, this is taking, it's time and productivity in a lot of organizations. And there's been some questions about one thing, Erica, I would touch base with Christy Isaacs if there's multiple sites. Even though it's the same person, I can't see where Erica is on the screen, so I'm just talking to the screen. But if there's different sites, then let us work that out and see what we have to do on that. They have to have, when you pass the test and you get your certification that you're now board certified, you want somebody that has been working, and you want somebody that has been working in psych for 1 year, at least. So it gives them the comfort level and the knowledge base to help you learn too. So make sure it needs to be 1 year, not just from their board certification, but more if they got board certified in July, but didn't really start working until August or September. We want to go more August, September. You want people who are comfortable and more secure. Because I can tell you, it takes a little bit of time, especially when you've come out of school and there's so much of a need.
Yes, I do have sites in Iowa.
Thank you, Christy. Lindsay, you got anything else? Where'd Lindsay go? I've lost Lindsay. Lindsay left us.
She's right there.
I'm here. I've been trying to
Jones contacts work really well.
That were submitted. I think we've gotten to most of them. There were a couple that were very specific to the individual student, where you mentioned specific sites and what to do. So if you have one of those, I recommend reaching out directly to Christy because she can help walk you through what she needs for those. if you know that, say you have a verbal agreement from a preceptor and you know, or you believe that that site has a contract in place, Christy still needs that form. And that was a question that was on. So still go ahead and fill it out. We're required to keep that for accreditation.
The form is mandatory every semester for every site and every separate preceptor.
And you said if we have a provider that goes to several different nursing homes, then each one of those nursing homes has to be.
I will have to determine that. I
Okay.
will need a request form that explains that to me. You'll need to explain it to me that, you know, she goes to all of these different places. And then I'm going to have a conversation with her and a conversation with the nursing homes to determine what the proper course would be, whether we need to get separate contracts or whether it's even necessary. It just depends on the circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
And I am here and I am very responsive. You will, whenever you call, I will pick up the phone if I'm in my office. You never think you're bothering me. That's what I'm here for. My last name is Isaacs, and my email address is Christy, and it's spelled CHRISTI.Isaacs, ISAACS, at EKU.edu. My office number is 859-622-7954.
And somebody asked if you had to go the same day every week. No, you determine a schedule with your preceptor. What's good for you, what's good for them. So you can go. Now, you have to submit a clinical schedule at the first week of clinical. We realize that those can change. Things happen. Life happens around us. You will just re-upload another. It allows as many clinical schedules as you want to upload. If there's any changes to that, then you just upload a new schedule if changes happen. And you have to spread it over 12 weeks. Minimum. And then summer, which is a little different than the other three, is 6. The rest of them are all over 16 weeks.
One of the things that we really pride ourselves on, and you guys will get to know this, is that you're not just an online. We have lots of live meetings, not lots, a number that that you'll do with one-on-one with your facilitator. We also, and I'm going to let Professor Jones briefly talk about the first semester because we talk about groups. But we'll talk more about this, so I don't want you to get overwhelmed, but we want to kind of give you a heads up on one of the things that we're going to be offering in the spring.
Okay, we are actually going to offer, it's called COPE. It is CBT, and you will run in your group. Each of you will be in a group of about 8 or less students, and we always try to kind of get you all in your same state areas if we can. And then you can even start to develop study groups or, develop, hey, you're right next down the road from me and let's share preceptors. But anyway, that works out. But COPE is, like I said, it's CBT. You'll go through some sessions. You'll all have the opportunity to lead a session. And then, of course, be part of the group as well. It'll be over several weeks in that first, in spring. And you do get credit in Typhon for group for it. So, we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, we do expect participation. The more the more you put into something, the more you're going to get out of it. So, the more we understand things, the more we're able to help our patients. So,
and with alleviating stress.
Yes, it does.
So I think we all could utilize that.
We've had a lot of students that have used this over the years, and after they get out, they say, it was kind of stressful to meet those weeks, with this group, but we sure do appreciate it, and it's been helpful, and we use those techniques not only with our patients, but with ourselves. So you guys will like it, I think.
And Adrienne, there is nothing that we've went over today that isn't in your student handbook.
Those first 100 hours that we were talking about for the first semester, is that over 12 weeks or 16 weeks?
16.
You can do it over 16. You can't go any faster than completing it in 12.
Oh, minimum 12.
Yeah, minimum of 12. But
Gotcha.
you can use the whole 16 weeks. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Some people like to finish before finals. That the psychopharm final is at the end. So can't finish before the 880 final. You'll be going to clinical. But for the psychopharm final, you could be done.
Answer that one.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
I have a question. I'm sorry, I'm kind of like in a unique position. So I'm currently working in an outpatient clinic, but there's different sectors to it. But there's two sectors in the office that I work with. So we have a suicide prevention program that's with UT Southwestern, but they're affiliated with Children's because it's a teaching facility. So I would like to recruit one of the preceptors, but they're also affiliated with Children's, which is an organization that I work in my office, but they report to someone else. Is that allowed or no?
That should be okay.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It might not seem like it, you know, that last semester, the majority of our students are starting to say, wow, everything is clicking into place. And this, I don't know how many times we get students, because we ask you to let us know about your exam. There more and more students are saying, we learned everything that was on the exam in our classes. So, you know, we're always going to have some angst. The first time I wrote a prescription, I'm like, oh my God, someone's going to arrest me for writing this prescription because I'm practicing. So you're always going to have those newbie, you know, things. You know, Professor Jones,
I try to talk them out of medicine. My very first patient, you can do this in therapy, I promise you.
But you will be at that novice level. You will have the basic understanding, and 98% is our pass rate. We have a wonderful pass rate. Mm-hmm. And it's 100% on the second time. So that one person that's not passing passes it on the second time. And most of the time it's secondary to life experience that causes them not to pass the first time. Mm-hmm. So you guys will be prepared. It's very rigorous. You know, this is going to demand a lot of attention, a lot of input on yours, but you're never alone. You're always going to have us on your side. We're here for questions. No question is too small. No question is inappropriate. Okay. We encourage communication. That's what we're going to be doing for a living. So you need to communicate with us in the forefront.
Any recommendations that you have towards our first day of clinicals? Is there anything like material-wise or what we can look ahead, or just go in there blindly and just kind of observation?
Be thinking of a goal that you want to do. Be thinking of a goal that you want to say, I want to be more comfortable.
Asking about suicidality. Yeah. No, I'm just bringing or abuse. Abuse is a real hard one. If you're working with the child population, it's difficult in every population, but especially the child population, and really kind of having to work through all the reporting agencies and things like that. But if there's certain diagnoses, the personality disorders or the psychotic disorders, or interviewing, I want to get more comfortable with my flow of interview. So it's just kind of a goal. But yeah, you kind of just like, that's why it's observational this first semester. It's sort of just getting in there, getting your feet wet, watching and learning and asking lots of questions. Like if they prescribe Zoloft and you're thinking, why'd you do that? Why'd you pick Zoloft? Or why not? You know, so you can ask them, why did you go that way? And
any recommendations on like book materials or anything that we could look at or as a guidance or anything?
Well, you'll get when we'll send out the required book list toward the end of fall for spring. So you're going to have all those books that are required texts. Now in PsychoPharm, of course, it's Stephen Stahl. We're all in Stephen Stahl's world.
Okay.
We all have the prescriber's guide. That is our best friend. So, you know, if you want to go ahead and get Stephen Stahl's, it's a required text for PsychoPharm. You probably don't have it. It's probably in my office. Dr. Hortman was trying to look. I steal her books. And, but anyway, so that's also good. I think it's the 4th.
I think there's a new edition, right? Is that the new one?
It's the 6th, where he's up to the 6th.
Okay.
This is required.
Yes, Carlott, interview by Carlott. Daniel Carlott is the requirement. It's a really good, it's a small textbook. I think we're in the 4th edition.
Yeah, this is believe it or not, I was the 1st edition. So,
Okay.
I read it. It's a very great read. Gives you lots of very helpful information on interviewing skills.
Oh.
So if you want to get that and read it, you know, that gives you a little bit of a leg up, but you will have it for that first semester.
Now just remember, it's not the 2nd edition. I'm pretty sure it's the 4th.
Look for the newest edition. That's
the
the
newest
one you want.
edition of the psychiatric interview by Daniel Carlott, Carlat. What? I have my Carlott. I didn't steal that. I don't know. But I didn't. And then Adrian, I love that you said other than graduation. That warms our heart. You know, I know that seems like forever from now. We would love to see you all at graduation. We know that life happens and not everybody can join us, but we would love to see as many as possible at graduation.
But no, you're not required to physically step foot. We'll have virtual one-on-one with your facilitator.
Like this.
Yeah.
Just like this. Everything's in a Zoom.
We kind of have a thing going with the F&P group. We like to have more students come to graduation than there. So don't tell them.
It's a little inter college competition. Adrian is an FMP.
Yeah. We love our FMP cohorts, but
That's
we like to tease them though. We are very much collaboration. You'll hear that over and over and over again. Know your scope. Yep, 4th edition. That's right. When I was in full-time practice, I knew all of the docs and GYNs and specialists here in cardiologists. I knew them all, and I talked to them all because collaboration is a key for our patients' health.
And Deborah found out the latest version of Carlott's psychiatric interview is the 4th edition. I thought we were in the 4th.
I had the 1st.
Shh. You have it over there somewhere.
No, I think you took it. As you can tell, we like to smile. Mm-hmm. You know, we believe education should be fun as well as learning. So we use it, and to practice, as long as you have to have a little humor. And we hear lots of things that are very dark, and so humor is really wonderful. Stephen Stahl is the prescriber's guide. Information, Stephen Stahl.
Oh, yeah.
You'll get all of this. You'll get it all before the classes start. Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
That's it.
That's the essential that's the PsychoPharm book, but then the prescribing guide is the best. And Stahl is STAHL.
Okay, I'm done. You guys are starting to get shell shocked. The eyes are starting to get glazed, and this is usually when I give breaks when I'm doing my undergrad class.
Just know that I can guarantee you, if you have any questions, and I think even Jacqueline can attest to this. If you have any questions, let myself, Lindsay, Christy, Dr. Hovermill, all of us are here. If you have any questions, if something comes up, email us. That's what we're here for. Call us.
Well,
One more thing I want to add, though, is whenever you submit your request form in October, you're not going to hear from me for probably about a month. Don't get discouraged. I am the person that does the contracts and approvals for the psych, the FNP, the RN to BSN, the occupational therapy, and the doctorate of nursing. So I have quite a few contracts and request forms to get through. So if you've not heard from me in a couple of weeks, it doesn't mean anything. It means I'm working on it.
And she just didn't do it, but she just made a plug for our DMP program. Look at it. There it was. So when you're done, come back and get your DMP. There it was. Good job, Christy. Nice plug.
Any other questions? All right. We look forward to working with you in the spring and do some good self-care.
Yeah. You'll hear us say that a lot too.
Vodka's not self-care.
No. Or any other recreational. Except maybe some skydiving or, hiking.
Hiking
or
is good. All right.
Golfing or something.
All right. Take care. It's been nice talking with everyone. Process.